would drop by and the tea kettle would be put on again, or there would be an argument about who should be the next captain of the Indian cricket team, or a hilarious, seemingly endless session of storytelling, and off Tom went again into high-energy hurricane mode. When Hurricane Tom eventually blew out to sea, more often than not, he would collapse in a heap, exhausted yet exhilarated, wanting nothing more than a very long nap. The title of my talk today is Quest for Gold, Lessons Gleaned from a Journey of Learning and Love. I hope to capture briefly 3 lessons I learned during my long association with Tom. There were many more, but these 3 come to mind as significant. But first, a bit of context. Some of you may know that Tom, or Tommy, as he was known then, and I first met in class 2 at our boarding school, Woodstock School in Missouri. I used to tell my daughter, Afshan, look around, when she was in class 2. I say, look around, you may marry one of these guys. Even in primary school, Tommy showed many of the qualities which would become more prominent in adulthood. A lively intelligence, a plethora of interests, great physical energy, personal charm, a somewhat cheeky sense of humor, and a restless spirit that always drove him to new endeavors. Apart from music, at which he was a complete dardu, Tommy excelled at virtually everything up to about class 6. Our class 5 teacher, Miss Wessels, told me years later, I always thought Tommy would become the next Einstein or a famous mathematician. Never in a million years did I think he would become an actor in Hindi films. That was Tom, always questing, pushing the boundaries, dreaming, experimenting, striving. After finishing class 12 at Woodstock, most of us went abroad for further studies. Tom went to Yale University, and I went to a college in Pennsylvania. We met once or twice during the time that he was at Yale, which was rather short, only 1.5 years. Yale was not Tom's cup of tea, and he returned to India as soon as he could. His parents and his extended family were quite horrified. It was a commonly accepted fact, well, it was a fact, that in his family everybody attended Yale University. And it was a commonly accepted family rule that nobody dropped out of Yale. But then we all know that Tom broke just about every rule in the book. He felt confined at Yale, out of place, and his questing spirit was ready for a new adventure. In July of 1972, having graduated from college the previous month, I returned to India to teach English at Woodstock School. That same month, Tom was waiting to hear from the Film and Television Institute of India, FTII, whether he was admitted to this prestigious institute. Tom was in Missouri when I arrived, and thus began our 5-year long-distance courtship. We kept everyone in Missouri guessing. And when we eventually announced our engagement, I think the entire town, not to mention our families, heaved a huge collective sigh of relief. Something along the lines of, at last, what took them so long? But on to the lessons that I was privileged to learn from my charming, always questing hurricane of a husband. Lesson 1, trust your own intelligence. Tom's lively intelligence was a source of much learning for me. He was a sharp observer of humanity, and he was able to understand people and events, both global and local, with a keen insight. He said one time, after a visit that we had made to the United States, Did you notice that no one seems to have their own opinion anymore? Everywhere we went, everyone prefaced their remarks with, well, as it said in the New York Times, or as so-and-so said in the Washington Post. He said, it's ridiculous. He said, nobody has their own opinions. Nobody can think for themselves anymore. And it infuriated him that people look to the media to shape their own opinions and experiences rather than observing the world around them, their neighbors, their street, their community, their social group, strangers, whatever, and then forming their own opinions. As someone who was very much in the media and responsible for helping people form opinions, Tom took that responsibility very seriously. Let me give you an example from early in our marriage. So about 2 years into our marriage, he was asked to do an advertisement for a leading liquor brand. It would have been a very lucrative proposition at a time when we were pretty much penniless. Tom came home and asked me what I thought he should do. He was conflicted because of the amount of alcoholism and all of its resultant bad behaviors and personal tragedies, which he saw in the film industry. And he didn't want to seem to be promoting a drinking lifestyle, especially for young people who looked up to him. I agreed with him wholeheartedly, and the next day he turned down the offer. Though it was a big financial pinch for us, we were both relieved and confident that we had made the right decision, and we never regretted it. Whenever he could, Tom took the opportunity to try to help people trust their own sense of wisdom, to use their brains to make just, informed, honest decisions about what they believe and how they feel. Once he was asked, as the son of Christian missionaries, to be on the well-known TV show discussing controversial issues of role of Christians in the British society today. The other guests were Maria Macaulay, a somewhat frequently Maharashtra journalist and editor, and a group of pastors. I hope that he would speak to them all parts of the Christian especially the passionate smoke, drink, and womanize. Tom listened politely for as long as he could, and then he spoke out simply and forcefully. He decided to make a point about the so-called un-Indianness of Indian Christians. It turned out that in the audience were a group of local Christians whom Tom happened to know from the neighborhood, and he challenged the hardliners by saying, look around. Can you identify the Christians in this audience? Of course they couldn't because they looked just like everybody else. He then asked, did you know that in this audience is a group of Indian Christians, and not only that, Maharashtrian Christians, who speak Marathi the same way you do? I will introduce them to you after the show. Tom went on to talk about the work his grandparents, his parents, and their colleagues did in UP, their support of Gandhiji and the independence movement. And that Gandhian streak was so strong in Tom, I'm sure as many of you know. He talked about the hospitals they ran, the schools they started, the books they wrote, about Swami Abhishektananda, the French Catholic Christian Swami who lived, worked, and died in India, about Sadhu Sundar Singh from the Punjab, and much more. His audience listened in rapt attention to Tom's stories of this India, an India that is the norm for so many millions of the citizens in our great country. After the show, Tom brought together a group of earnest Marathi-speaking Christians and the now rather subdued hardliners. They chatted together in Marathi for a while, sharing their thoughts and lives with each other in a natural and friendly manner. Later, one of the hardliners said to him, Tom Sahib, we never knew people like this existed. They're just like us. We have learned a great deal today. Thank you. I often say to my students when they're being particularly unwilling to think, Come on, people, use the brains God gave you. And I think in his own way, this is what Tom spent much of his life trying to communicate. His actions said, you are an intelligent person. Look around, observe, read, think, come to your own conclusions, trust your own intelligence. Lesson 2, find your passion and run with it. Now, Tom had many passions, and he constantly dipped in and out of them at various times of his life, often simultaneously. His primary passion, actually, was sport, which he pursued with diligence and joy. He loved basketball, cricket, running, cycling, swimming, fishing, you name it, anything. He played basketball in school, during college, and on the local YMCA basketball team in Mumbai. He counted among his friends many of the basketball greats of India. Likewise, he loved cricket, as I'm sure everyone here knows. He loved playing it, watching it, writing about it, pontificating about it, boring me to death with it. You name it, if it was cricket related, you would find Tom Alter there somewhere. As you saw on the screen tonight, Tom was the first person to ever interview the then 15-year-old Sachin Tendulkar. The day he did, he came home looking somewhat dazed. And he said, Carol, you will not believe the experience I had today. I just interviewed a high-voiced 15-year-old kid who is the most amazing cricketer I've ever seen. Mark my words, that boy is going to go places. And as we all know, Sachin did go places. As Sachin's cricketing career progressed, I think Tom still felt that connection that he had had with him in that interview. If Sachin was playing a match anywhere in the world, Tom felt duty-bound to watch it because he just knew that if he didn't watch it, Sachin would perform terribly and India would lose. Of course, isn't that logical? So every time India lost, you can blame it on Tom Alter. He wasn't watching the match. The next morning, if Tom was in a foul mood, I knew Sachin had not done well. I can't count the number of times I've gone to bed and breathed a fervent prayer to the Almighty. Oh dear God, please make Sachin lead India to victory, because if he doesn't, I swear I'll divorce Tom by noon. That was the ups and downs of our life when great cricket matches were on. Tom also loved running, and his novel, The Longest Race, is about a runner named Bahadur from the town of Rajpur, below Mussoorie, where Tom was born and raised. In school, he was a long-distance runner and regularly ran in the Dune Marathon in Dehradun, both in school and for many years afterwards. In October 2002, when the Singh brothers at Procram International were planning their first ever Mumbai Marathon, in the following January, so that would have been January 2003, Tom was asked to promote the event at a gala function at the Oberoi on Marine Drive. I've always been the introvert in our marriage, and I avoid social functions like the plague. However, Tom insisted that I come, so I very reluctantly did. I found a seat in the very last row of the ballroom, close to the doorway, beside some large potted plants and decorative pillars, secure in the knowledge that I could always hide behind a plant, or hide behind a pillar, or slip out the door if needed. Tom got up to speak, and about 10 minutes into his talk, by which time he had the audience practically charmed out of their seats, I was horrified that he acknowledged my presence. He identified my location and told the audience that I had run a marathon. Now, nothing, absolutely nothing, could be farther from the truth. There was a collective gasp as everyone turned around to look at me, and I froze. I obviously couldn't say what I wanted to say, which was something along the lines of, Tom Alter, you just wait till we get home. And Tom must have seen something in my forced smile, because he hurriedly got on with his joke, which was, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Carol has indeed run a full marathon. She's been married to me for 25 years. And Tom delighted in embarrassing me in this way. And as the audience roared with laughter on that occasion, I gratefully sank into my seat. I decided I would not kill my husband that night. Maybe later. The next day there was a write-up about the event in Midday. And the day after that, one of my Korean students, who had been told that reading newspapers was a good way to learn English, came up to me wide-eyed. And he said, "Mrs. Alter, I heard that you ran a marathon and you won a lot of money for it." I immediately told him this was a false rumor, but a good one. And he should spread that rumor as far as it would go. I said if he wanted to, he had my permission to say that the prize money was enough for me to buy an island in the South Pacific and retire at the end of the school year. Isn't that a good rumor? Now, I have no idea how far that rumor went, but I must say for the next few weeks, my students looked at me with great awe and respect. Tom had actually run a full marathon a few years before that, at the age of 47, on January 1st, 1997. It was a personal quest that he had been hankering to start several years before that. And that year we had spent Christmas as a family in Mussoorie, and he had figured out exactly where he needed to start, how far out beyond Mussoorie he needed to run, and where he needed to stop to complete the 42.195 kilometers. It was dark and freezing cold when I heard his alarm clock go off at 4 a.m. I was vaguely aware of him moving around in the room getting ready before I turned over and went back to sleep. Amazingly, he completed this Herculean task and lived to tell the tale, a tale that we heard over and over and over again. Particularly how he had to convince a chaiwala about 5 miles beyond Mussoorie limits on his return trip that he had no money with him, but he would pay him for chai and pakoras within the week. It was a measure of Tom's charm that he could do that. In January 2013, Tom ran the Mumbai Half Marathon, and my job was to stand at the far end of Pedder Road flyover with a clean, dry shirt, some water, and some homemade biscuits. So as I saw Tom coming over the flyover, I waved vigorously, and then I jogged with him for about 500 meters as he changed out of his soaking shirt, leaving me standing on the flyover saying, "What do I do with this?" Because it was a disgusting sweaty shirt. He drank a few sips of water and he went and quickly ate a few biscuits and off he went. I had to go somewhere else, so I wasn't able to be at the finish line, but he came home and very proudly showed me his medal, the Mumbai Half Marathon. Not bad for a 63-year-old. Not bad. Tom was, of course, passionate about other things, though sports was a silver thread that ran through most of his adult life in all the ups and downs. He was, as we all know, passionate about theater, and I will always be exceedingly grateful to Dr. Saeed Alam for the opportunities he gave Tom to hone and excel the craft of acting on stage. Dr. Alam's play, Maulana, became Tom's signature piece, which he performed repeatedly over the 12-year period of their association. Some of you have seen it. If you haven't, I'm sorry you haven't. Maybe it's on YouTube somewhere, but it's 2.5 hours of chaste Urdu, alone on the stage, without an intermission. And Tom kept audiences enthralled across the length and breadth of our country, as well as other countries around the world. As you know, Maulana Azad was the freedom fighter, co-founder of this institute, and the first education minister of independent India. Just two of Dr. Maulana Azad's many, many contributions to our nation. I used to love to watch Tom act in this role, even though I probably understood only one word in 50, or maybe 150. After one of his performances I watched, I told a friend, "That was great. I understood 3 words, va, and va." One of the things that our daughter Afshan said to me one day during Tom's final days was, "Mom, I know Dad was really good at what he did, but I never realized how hard he worked. And much of the hard work we, his family, never saw, and we only came to appreciate belatedly. But to be as good an actor as he was, Tom worked prodigiously hard. and we all need to honor him for that. There's no doubt that as we look at Tom's life, we see he identified his passions and ran with them with great vigor and commitment. Lesson 3, discover your purpose and give it all you've got. As Tom grew as an actor and a person, I think he began to sense that there was a larger purpose to his life. Certainly he began to use his celebrity for more than personal benefit. He began to lend his name to things that would benefit others. Apart from his legendary personal generosity, Tom could be generous to a fault. I don't know how many times he's given somebody the last 500 rupees we had in the house. He began to teach in schools around the country, where he was invited to do drama workshops to inspire young people to stretch themselves, to think out of the box in terms of what they could do with their lives. In 1987, some of you might remember this, he and his friend cinematographer Virendra Saini promoted sports through a TV documentary called Quest for Gold on the Special Area Games program, a visionary and audacious plan to bring indigenous sports people to make them really into Olympic champions. Tom also supported organizations such as Clean Sports India, founded in 2010 by Indian athletes passionate about creating excellence and integrity in sports management in India. Many of the plays Tom did were socially relevant plays designed to increase awareness about issues facing our country. The Laboratory, written by Shivani Tibriwala, highlights the abuse of power in the pharmaceutical industry. Another, which Tom wrote for wheelchair-bound actress Divya Arora, highlighted issues faced by disabled citizens across the country. For the past few years, Tom was head of the acting department at the Film and Television Institute of India, his earnest attempt to keep alive the tradition of excellence for which that institute is known. And as we know, the FTII has produced most of India's finest actors. And Tom was passionately dedicated to maintaining it as a premier institute of the visual arts. Tom was not happy about the India that he saw around him in recent years, and he often spoke of the increasing narrowness of vision that he observed in his fellow citizens. One issue, as you know, that he felt very strongly about was the way he felt the beautiful Urdu language was being sidelined in society. In every way he could, he made it his quest to keep alive this beautiful, vigorous, stately language, the language his grandparents spoke, the language his father spoke, the language that most of the greats in the Hindi film industry in the last century spoke in undivided India, the language of the intelligentsia and the culture. And tonight, I'm thrilled to be here in an institute that seeks to do the same. And I thank you and honor you for this noble quest. Though I feel that Tom did not fully understand the grander purpose of his life, he did understand that at one level, each of us is part of a greater design. I believe that God has a specific plan and a specific purpose for each one of us. Something wonderful that he has specifically designed for us to do. Something no one else on earth can accomplish but us, so that we can be a blessing to others. Our lives have a greater meaning than we realize, and our job is to find that meaning, that purpose, and use it for the benefit of others. Each of us is a part of the beautiful tapestry that our Creator weaves, ceaselessly, intentionally, and with great love and compassion to bring the human race to fulfillment. So I encourage you tonight to strive with all your mind, heart, and soul, to strive as Tom strove, to discover the purpose for which you were put on earth, and then give it all you've got. You have the potential to be a blessing to the world. Do not waste that potential. Guard it as a precious jewel, a pearl of great price. Seek to understand its beautiful power and let your light shine so that our world will be what it was created to be. May this be your personal quest. In closing, thank you for this opportunity to share these few thoughts tonight. It has been an honor and a joy to be here to consider and reflect upon my husband's life and legacy to his country. As we move forward, I hope we will be creative and persevering in the ways we choose to promote Tom's legacy for the blessing of many in this country which he loved so much and so well. Thank you.
कई तरह के तासुर दिए जो जज्बाती रिश्ता हुआ करता है, उस रिश्ते का एहसास कराया। क्या उनकी तालीमात थी वो हमें बताएं, क्या कुछ तजुर्बात थे, क्या कुछ दिलचस्प वाक़यात थे। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया मोहतरमा कैरोल ईवान साहिबा का। हज़रात, एक कलमकार, एक अदीब ज़िंदगी की हकीकतों को बेहद करीब से न सिर्फ देखता है बल्कि महसूस भी करता है। एक अदीब जहाँ जज्बाती होता है वहीं वो ज़िंदगियों की खूबसूरतियों को भी महसूस करता है और बेहतर तरीके से महसूस करता है। मेरी दरख्वास्त है डॉक्टर अतर फारूकी साहब से कि वो बराह करम माइक्रोफोन पर तशरीफ़ लाएँ और टॉम ऑल्टर साहब के तईं अपने जज्बात और एहसासात का इजहार फरमाएँ। डॉक्टर अतर फारूकी साहब।
मिसेस ऑल्टर और मिसेस ऑल्टर की इतनी अच्छी तकरीर के बाद मेरे ख्याल में उनके दोस्तों के लिए कुछ कहना मुश्किल है। ये बहरहाल मैं जब यहाँ आ रहा था तो मैंने ये सोचा कि ज़ुबान में बोला जाए। सईद आलम साहब ने मुझे बताया था कि मिसेस ऑल्टर को उर्दू बिल्कुल नहीं आती है, और एक हमारे दोस्त हैं दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में गौतम चक्रवर्ती, वो ये कहते थे कि जो आदमी हिंदुस्तान में रहा हो वो हिंदुस्तानी समझता ज़रूर है। तो मैं सोच रहा था कि जाएं और कुछ बात करें और मिसेस ऑल्टर तक ना पहुँचे तो ये कुछ अच्छा नहीं होगा, मगर ये देख के सुन के खुशी हुई कि उन्हें हिंदुस्तानी समझ में आती है। तो मैं कोशिश करूँगा कि अपनी बात मुख्तसरन 5-7 मिनट में ख़त्म कर दूँ। ग़ालिबन सईद आलम साहब के साथ के बाद दिल्ली में होने की वजह से मैं शायद दूसरा शख्स हूँ जो पिछले 10 साल में टॉम साहब से सबसे ज़्यादा मिला, जिसकी सबसे ज़्यादा मुलाकातें हुई। मिसेस ऑल्टर ने जो दिलचस्प किस्से सुनाए उन्हीं में से एक किस्सा मुझे याद आता है, इसलिए कि हम एक दोस्त की याद को सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं। 2011 या 12 में मैं नैनीताल के एक स्कूल में किसी बच्चे का दाखिला कराने गया। जिन लोगों को अच्छे स्कूलों के प्रिंसिपल्स से कभी साबका पड़ा हो तो वो ये दुआ करेंगे कि दोबारा कभी उस प्रिंसिपल से साबका ना पड़े। डायसिस ने कभी सोचा था कि लड़कों के लिए शेवुड कॉलेज बनाया जाए, फिर जब ज़रूरत महसूस हुई तो उसके बराबर में ऑल सेंट्स बना दिया गया। तो उसकी अपनी समाजियात है। तो बहरहाल मैं किसी सिफारिश से किसी एक बच्चे का दाखिला कराने गया था ऑल सेंट्स। प्रिंसिपल बहुत अच्छी तरह मिली, जो खासी ताज्जुब की बात थी। आधी कप चाय ख़त्म नहीं हुई थी कि उन्होंने कहा कि देखिए दाखिला तो कर दिया हमने आपके बच्चे का, मैं सुना आपकी टॉम ऑल्टर साहब से दोस्ती है। कहा जी वो तो है। कहने लगे अब क्यों नहीं हमारे यहाँ आप फाउंडर्स डे पे ले आइए। तो अब वो बहरहाल दाखिले की अपनी मुसीबत है और जो लोग इससे गुजरे हुए जानते हैं कि अच्छे स्कूल में दाखिला क्या होता है। तो बहरहाल मैं टॉम साहब को लेके गया, वो अलग दास्तान है। वहाँ जो टॉम साहब ने किया कि वो जब वो जलसा चल रहा था तो वो स्पोर्ट्स डे भी था, तो टॉम साहब ने ये तजवीज़ रखी कि वहाँ जितने मर्द हजरात हैं ऑडियंस में, वो सब भी देश में हिस्सा लें। और जाहिर है कि वो पब्लिक स्कूल सिस्टम था तो सब फॉर्मल शूज और उसमें आए थे। वो टॉम साहब अपनी वही जीन्स पहन के गए थे, तो उन्होंने मगर बहरहाल शेवुड के प्रिंसिपल को भी अपने साथ दौड़ा लिया। तो वो बहरहाल जो आप लोग तसव्वुर कर सकते हैं कि वो क्या नज़ारा रहा होगा। तो बहरहाल ऐसे थे हमारे टॉम साहब। मेरी उनसे मुलाकात हुई थी 2009 के आसपास। सईद आलम साहब ने भी उनके साथ जो पहला प्ले किया था उसके बारे में भी कई लोगों ने कहा था कि इस प्ले को करना बहुत मुश्किल है और उस पर सईद साहब के कई लोगों से ताल्लुकात खराब हुए। तो 2009 में मेरे पास भी एक प्ले था जो कम्युनलिज्म के बारे में था, इंडियन आइडेंटिटी के बारे में था, और सब तरफ से हम कोशिश कर चुके थे कि वो प्ले नहीं होता था। किसी ने कहा कि टॉम वॉल्टर से कराइए। टॉम वॉल्टर साहब को ढूंढिए, तो वो कहाँ मिलते हैं पता चला कि वो मोबाइल लगते नहीं हैं, फ़ोन नंबर उनका दिल्ली में किसी के पास है नहीं। टॉम साहब तक कैसे पहुंचा जाए, तो मैंने महमूद फारूकी को फ़ोन किया, तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं, एक साहब है सईद आलम साहब, आप उनसे बात कीजिए। अब दिल्ली में लोग आमतौर पर ऐसे लोगों के नंबर नहीं देते हैं, तो मैंने सईद आलम साहब से बहुत डरते डरते कहा कि भाई ये मेरा नाम है, ये मुझे उनसे काम है, तो आप अगर मुनासिब समझें तो टॉम साहब से पूछ के आप मुझे कोई ऐसा रास्ता बताइए कि उनसे बात हो सके। उन्होंने बगैर किसी तकल्लुफ़ के मुझसे कहा कि जनाब ये उनकी ईमेल आईडी है जो उन तक पहुंचने का वाहिद तरीका है, और अगर आपकी उनसे बात हो जाए तो आप उनसे बात कर लीजिए। बहरहाल मैंने उन्हें अच्छी अंग्रेजी में खत लिखा, ही सोच के कि अमेरिकन को मैं खत लिख रहा हूँ। उन्होंने मुझे वजीब व गरीब हिंदुस्तानी में खत लिखते थे, 2-4 अंग्रेजी के लफ्ज़ होंगे, 2-4 हिंदुस्तानी के होंगे, और उसके बाद 2-3 डॉट होंगे और जुमला 4 जगह से टूटेगा। तो ऐसी उसमें उन्होंने जवाब दिया और ये पूछा कि अच्छा आप मुझसे कराना क्या चाहते हैं। तो इत्तफाक से मैं उस वक्त ईमेल पर था, तो मैंने कहा कि साहब कराना तो ये है कि आप बहादुर शाह ज़फ़र का रोल कर दीजिए। तो कहने लगे अच्छा मैं आ रहा हूँ, मैं सईद आलम साहब के यहाँ रुकूँगा और हम मिलते हैं। खैर बहरहाल हमने और टॉम साहब ने वो प्ले किया और उसकी 50 परफॉर्मेंसेस 50-51 परफॉर्मेंसेस हमने की, और दुनिया के ऐसे ऐसे हिस्सों में की कि जहाँ वो प्ले नहीं पहुँच सकता था। उसके बाद एक और दिलचस्प प्ले था। एक बहुत बड़े आदमी ने, जब राजीव गांधी हिंदुस्तान की पॉलिटिक्स में आना चाहते थे, तो जो ऑक्सफोर्ड में कम्युनिस्ट तालिब इल्मों का एक हल्का था, जिनमें से अब फॉर्चुनेटली सब बीजेपी के साथ हैं और आधे बीजेपी के राज्यसभा मेंबर हैं, और सब अल्ट्रा कम्युनिस्ट होते थे और ऑक्सफोर्ड में पढ़ते थे। तो उनके साथ एक मुलाकात के 2 पेज थे, तो वो उसमें एक प्ले चाहते थे कि इसमें प्ले बन जाए। वो खुद बहुत अच्छा प्ले लिख सकते थे, मगर समहाउ वो नहीं लिख पाए, और वो 2 पेज का नोट उनके साथ घूमता रहा 30 साल तक। तो 30 साल के बाद वो नोट उन्होंने मुझे दिया कि भाई ज़रा देखिए आप। तो मैंने टॉम साहब से बात की, मुझे ये अंदाज़ा था कि टॉम साहब से पित्ता मार काम कराना बहुत मुश्किल काम है, तो कुछ उल्टा सीधा लिख के ले जाइए तो वो प्ले बन जाएगा। मैंने कुछ उसे किया, अंग्रेजी प्ले था, ये आप लोगों ने झलक देखी, मार्क्स माई वर्ड, और मैं ले गया। और उसके बाद 7 दिन वहाँ उन्होंने उसकी रिहर्सल की, और उस प्ले की 5-6 और अच्छे शोज हमने किए। तो ये टॉम साहब से تو ان چیزوں کے ذریعے ہم نے ان کی جو تھیٹر کی لائف تھی اس کو جانا. مگر جو بہت دلچسپ بات تھی اور جو یہ شاید یہاں آپ میں سے بہت سارے لوگوں کے لیے تعجب کا باعث ہو، وہ یہ کہ ٹام صاحب نے اپنی خودنوشت سوانح آٹو بایوگرافی اردو میں لکھی، اور ہم نے اس کو انجمن ترقی اردو ہند کا ایک پرچہ ہے اردو ادب، اس میں 5 قصے اس کی شائع کی تھی کہ 6 قصے پہلے ٹام صاحب چلے گئے، اور وہ جو 5 قصے تھی اس میں سے میں آپ کو 2-3 لائنیں پڑھ کے سنا دیتا ہوں کہ ٹام صاحب کیسی اردو لکھتے تھے. 3 لائنیں سے شروع میں آپ کو اندازہ ہو جائے گا. مجھے یاد آتا ہے کہ میرے اردو کے استاد نے بہت سختی کے ساتھ لفظ شروعات کے استعمال کی ممانعت کی تھی، کیونکہ استاد محترم کے مطابق یہ لفظ ازرو قواعد غلط ہے، مگر اردو جیسی زبان کی قوت ہی لفظوں کو اپنی مخصوص لسانی ساخت میں ڈھال لینا ہے. اس لیے مجھے بگن فرام دا بگننگ کے لیے شروعات سے شروع کرنے کا فقرہ اپنی نہایت محدود علمی صلاحیتوں کی وجہ سے مناسب معلوم ہوا ہے. اور جہاں سے انہوں نے وہ شروعات کی ہے، وہ پہلا پیراگراف ہے: آج 1 مئی یعنی مزدوروں کا دن ہے، جس میں ہر وہ شخص چھٹی منانے کا حقدار ہوتا ہے جو کسی بھی سطح پر خود کو مزدور تصور کرے. فلمی دنیا کے بھی بہت سے لوگ اس دن کام نہیں کرتے، مگر میں آج بھی اس لیے کام کر رہا ہوں کہ موجودہ سامراجی نظام نے مزدوروں کے حالات اتنے خراب کر دیے ہیں کہ اب ان کے لیے 1 مئی کو بھی چھٹی منانا ممکن نہیں رہ گیا ہے. اپنی خودنوشت سوانح کی تحریر کا کام بھی میں آج ہی شروع کر رہا ہوں کہ یوم مئی سے زیادہ مناسب دن ایک مزدور کے لیے دوسرا نہیں ہو سکتا. 2016 کی افادیت یہ بھی ہے کہ اس برس میرے خاندان کو ہندوستان آئے ہوئے پورے 100 برس ہو گئے. 2016 میں انہوں نے اپنی خودنوشت سوانح لکھنی شروع کی تھی، اور انتقال سے پہلے 27 یا 28 اگست کو میں اور زمر المغل یہاں تشریف رکھتے ہیں، ان سے ملے تو کوئی شائبہ کہیں نہیں تھا کہ کچھ ہونے والا ہے، کوئی بیمار ہے. تو بہرحال تو اس دن انہوں نے مجھے وہ، تب تک انہوں نے اس کا ترجمہ کر لیا تھا انگریزی میں، تو وہ انہوں نے مجھے دی، وہ میں نے اس آلٹر کو بھیج دی تھی. اب وہ انگریزی میں کبھی چھپے گی تو آپ لوگ پڑھ سکتے ہیں. اردو میں بہرحال وہ قسط وار پہلے اردو ادب اور پھر ہماری زبان میں نے اس کی ان کے ٹام صاحب کے انتقال کے بعد چھاپا تھا. اور 2-3 میں اور باتیں جو عام طور پہ ہمارے ہاں یہ خیال کیا جاتا ہے کہ جو پہاڑوں کے علاقے ہیں وہاں فرقہ واریت تقریباً نہیں کے برابر ہے یا بہت کم ہے. ٹام صاحب کو اس کا بہت سخت اور برا تجربہ ہوا کہ ان کے کزن کے اوپر قاتلانہ حملہ ہوا، اور ان کو مارنے والے لوگ یہ سمجھ کے چھوڑ کے چلے گئے کہ یہ مر گئے ہیں، تو بات سے بچ گئے بعد میں. اس کے بعد بھی انہوں نے ہندوستان نہیں چھوڑا. تو ایک طرف تو ٹام صاحب نے وہ دیکھا، اور پھر یہ کہ اس کے بعد انہوں نے جو بھی ان کے دوست تھے مسوری میں ان سے جو مدد کی امید کی، تو کسی نے ان کی اس معاملے میں مدد نہیں کی تھی. اس کے برعکس جو دوسرا واقعہ ہے وہ یہ کہ جہاں وہ رہتے تھے اس کے سامنے YMCA تھا، وہاں جو باسکٹ بال کا میدان تھا وہاں انہوں نے اتنے مسلمان بچوں کو ٹرین کیا کہ YMCA والے ان سے ناراض ہو گئے. تو فرقہ پرستی کے جو رنگ ہے وہ ہم سب کی شخصیتوں میں اور اس کے ساتھ ڈیل کرنے کا جو ہم سب کا تجربہ ہے وہ مختلف ہوتا ہے. کیونکہ ایک دوست یاد کرتے تو جو چیزیں مجھے یاد آتی ہیں زیادہ وقت نہیں لیتی تھے، 5-7-10 منٹ میں اپنی بات ختم کر دوں گا. 2-3 اور پیراگراف میں ان کی خودنوشت ہی سے پڑھ دیتا ہوں.